Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Directors meeting for December 19th, 2017. I'd like to welcome everybody that's with us here in City Hall as we go about to conduct the city's business. Madam Clerk, if you would you please read the roll?
Director Hendricks, Director Richardson, Director Peck, here. Director Hines,
Present.
Director Wright,
Here.
Director Wyrick,
Here.
Director Campuris, Director Fortson,
Here.
Director Adcock,
Present.
Vice Mayor Webb,
Here.
Mayor Stodler.
Here. Quorum is present. Let me call on Vice Mayor Kathy Webb for our invocation, please.
Pause for a moment. While this is a time of reflection and anticipation for many, for others it's a time of great stress and great strife. Let us remember the words of this prayer tonight and always. If there is to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. If there is to be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities. If there is to be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbors. If there is to be peace between neighbors, there must be peace in the heart. As we work together and as we leave to go our respective ways, may we all strive to find peace in our hearts. Amen.
Amen. If you would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We begin tonight with a couple of recognitions. Let me call on our city manager, Bruce Moore, for an employee retirement recognition for our fire chief, Chief Gregory Summers of the Little Rock Fire Department. Bruce?
Thank you, Mayor and members of the board. Some of you all were with us yesterday as we celebrated the chief's 34 years and 8 months with the city. His awards and honors include the Sickle Cell Support Group Community Service Award for enhancing the quality of life for sickle cell patients in Arkansas, the NFBPA Jacqueline L. Whitman Distinguished Service Award, which is a national award that NFBPA gives out. The chief's favorite memory of the city, he said, while serving in the capacity of assistant fire marshal, an elderly woman approached me in the Kroger store on Roosevelt Road and Springer Street and said to me with her heart-filled gratitude, "Sonny, I never thought I'd see the day that I would see one of our boys in that fire department uniform." Greg's plans for retirement include RV travel to a warm climate and at some point exploring other opportunities. So, Chief.
Thank you, Bruce. Mayor, Board, Vice Mayor Kathy Webb. That was a nice prayer. Peace in the heart, and I agree with you 100%. I would like to recognize, before I get started, my lovely wife. Jeanette, would you please stand? For all of your support. For all of your support during this journey. I couldn't have done it without you and your guidance and your beliefs in God, and I appreciate all that you've done and helped me through this process. I realize that and that lady stopped me in the store that day and said that to me. It made me reflect back on where I was in my life at the time in the fire service. And a lot of times we take for granted, we talk about shoulders that we stand up on. Captain Floyd Burns, you stand, Captain Burns, was the first African-American firefighter for the Little Rock Fire Department. In 1969, and the visits that I've had with him and his wife and some of the things that he endured early on in his career when he didn't have to. He was gainfully employed at the time that he took the position in the fire department, and he could have dropped his fire department helmet and said, "I'm going back to the employment that I had," but he chose to stick it out. And because of that, and because of his endurance and his strength, I'm here before you, although retiring, but as the fire chief of the Little Rock Fire Department. So I want us to reflect on in society for all of us. When I took this job as a fire chief, Bruce, I want to thank you for selecting me, giving me the opportunity, for believing in me. I never doubted it, but at some point in time, you realize that you've done everything that you can do. And when I started out, I had 3 goals, and those goals were to increase our Class 2 to a solid Class 2 and eventually a Class 1, and to be nationally accredited like the rest of our departments in the city, and to make the professional development the norm in the organization. When Chief Kerr was here, her vision was serving with pride, excellence, and national recognition. And we all questioned that national recognition part. We knew we served with pride, we knew we served with excellence, but we questioned, where are we serving with, where does this national recognition come from? And the first time that she sent me to the National Fire Academy, and from that point forward, I recognized that on a national level, the Little Rock Fire Department, because they may not have known Little Rock, but through her, they got to know Little Rock, and we built on that as an organization. So to achieve the ISO Class 1 and the accreditation, national accreditation, when you think about, and I want to say this to the day I die, 30,000 fire departments, 30,000, and 57 of them are ISO Class 1 and accredited. And that's the type of department that I'm leaving, and I'm leaving it better than when I found it. You can. And I want to thank this board. I know sometimes your jobs are hard. You don't necessarily deal in the day-to-day operations of these organizations, and for that, I want to say I appreciate you. I know it's hard, because I know people in your ears telling you stories and telling you this and telling you that, but at the end of the day, I know you trust and believe that those at the head of these positions and these organizations are doing the very best, and we have the city's best interest at mind. So for that, I say thank you for your support, and I'm looking forward to retirement, and I know for a fact, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the fire department has a good chief coming behind me, and I look for good things from him. And again, thank you, and thank Bruce for all the support that you've given. Thank you.
Chief, on behalf of the City of Little Rock, thank you for your years of service, and thank you for leading the Little Rock Fire Department.
Thank you.
Well, Chief, thank you so much, and we're gonna miss you. We wish you well, but I think I recall you've got a leadership position after this, don't you? Aren't you the head of the RV organization? Aren't you? Tell us about that.
Well, I am the newly elected president of the UAPB Rolling Lines RV Club, and we support the
Okay.
athletic department of the.
I thought it was important for you, everybody to know you still got a job.
Yeah, I don't get paid for it, but trust me when I say I truly enjoy it.
The UAPB RV riders, huh?
Right,
All right, congratulations. Okay, the next presentation we have has to do with our Team Neighborhood USA drawing. Who am I calling on for this? All right. Dwight.
Good evening, Mayor, members and board, and City Manager Bruce Moore. My name is Dwight Pridgeon, employed with the City of Little Rock Department of Community Programs Department. We are here today with the drawing. All proceeds would assist at least 20 people, neighborhood people, and city employees to travel to Birmingham, Alabama, to attend the Neighborhood U.S. Conference in Birmingham, Alabama, 2018. Today, with the assistance of Kaylee, we'll be drawing 10 prizes from the drum. The following prize would be a 55-inch screen television, which is donated by our gold sponsor, Crane Chevrolet. And let's keep in mind, Crane Chevrolet is our gold sponsor throughout all the fundraisers this year. A $300 Bass Pro gift card This is donated by Tommy Hodges. A $100 Valerio gift card. Go ahead and start donating. Donated by Asher Record. A one-night stay in valet parking at the downtown Marriott Hotel. A $80 Oilers compression with a $20 gift card. Of course, lunch with mayor, lunch with the mayor. A $100 City of Little Rock gift basket. A $100 Briarwood Animal Clinic gift basket, and a $100 and a $50 Trio gift certificate donated by Trios. Okay, I'm going to start saying it. So we always welcome other neighborhood citizens that want to learn what other neighborhoods are doing throughout the United States. We always encourage them to join our team. We meet at the Center at University, located at 6401 West 12th Street in Little Rock between the hours of 5:30 p.m. and 6:30 every other Thursday. If they are interested, they can contact Willie Carpenter, who is the Neighborhood Resource Supervisor, at 501-244-0900, or Director Joan Adcock at 501-590-8765, or myself. I can be reached at 501-580-0064. We are also having 2 additional fundraising events this year in 2018, starting with our neighborhood banquet, which will be held on March the 8th, 2018 at the Center of University. We also will be honoring a representative from several neighborhood associations. If they are interested, they can contact Brenda Tanner, who is the chair of that committee. She's also the vice president of Twin Lakes B. And lastly but not least, we'll be having our annual golf tournament either late March or early April. And if you want to get involved, you can contact Doug Tapp at 501-351-4332. So the first prize was driven is number 865028, Kim Adams. Is she here? Yeah.
What
it's
did
her
Mr.
choice.
Adams win?
Huh?
What did he win?
Kim, she has a choice.
Kim?
She has a choice for any one of these 10
Oh, wow.
prizes.
Well,
Okay.
I know what he.
Number one is, next prize. She's here? Which one would you like? Wow.
The TV or the air compressor? Or would you like the other 8 prizes?
You got 8 other
Make it
prizes.
so difficult, but I think.
Or lunch with the mayor,
Or lunch with the mayor?
Mayor, I would love to go.
or the TV, yeah. Take the TV. Don't take the lunch.
Okay, we'll get which. The second prize,
Did you take the
number 865101, Mary Anderson. She's our second winner. The third winner is going to be James Hill, number 720888. Remember, they don't have to be present to win. We'll contact them. The fourth winner is Patricia Becker, number 864889. Yeah. The fifth winner is Candace Martin, number 721084. Wow. The sixth winner is going to be James Cabin, number 864845. The seventh winner is Larry Johnson, number 865165. The eighth winner, Michael Drake, number 721009. The ninth winner is Regina Hoppins, number 721162. And the 10th and final winner is Leroy Cobbs, number 720988. Thank you all very much and happy holidays.
Now, thank you, Dwight.
So now what we're going to try to go do is try to call these individuals and so ask them what prizes they want since the big prize have already been chosen. All right.
I know we got some really smart employees. They knew how to pick. Okay, if you'll, we can now turn on to the items on our agenda. And we have three resolutions to add, or we have two resolutions and one ordinance to add. If there's no objection, I'll add the resolutions. If you look at them, I'll add the resolutions to our grouped items and, or to our consent agenda and our ordinance to our grouped items. There's a motion and a second to do so. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. The motion is passed, so they'll be added. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read the consent agenda as amended.
The consent agenda consists of a resolution to authorize the city manager to renew contracts for housing opportunities for persons with AIDS, HOPWA, in a total combined amount not to exceed $504,527 for a one-year term, and for the purposes, a resolution to authorize the city manager and city officials to execute any necessary documents to enter into a 5-year lease agreement with an option to purchase real estate contract with Jack Tyler Family, LLC, for approximately 60 acres of land for the annual rent of $450 per acre, for a total annual payment of $27,000 for the use and benefit of the Little Rock Port Authority, and for other purposes, funding from the 2012 3/8 capital improvement sales tax. A resolution authorizes the city manager and city officials to execute any necessary documents to enter into a real estate purchase contract with Rolf Hartzell, Melinda Paradoxe, Daisy Hartzell, and Carter Hartzell to acquire approximately 15 acres of land for the purchase price of $275,833, cash or cash equivalent, for the use and benefit of the Little Rock Port Authority, and for other purposes, funding from the 2012 3/8 capital improvement sales tax. A resolution authorizes the city manager to extend the current contracts with nonprofit organizations to provide citywide program enhancement services, to prevention, intervention, and treatment programs, and to provide a youth intervention program, and for the purposes, a resolution authorizes the city manager to extend the current contracts with nonprofit organizations to provide positive prevention programs for youth, to provide youth intervention programs, and to provide reentry services, and for other purposes. A resolution authorizes the city manager to extend the current contracts with nonprofit organizations to provide positive prevention programs for youth and to provide youth intervention programs, and for the purposes. A resolution authorizes the city manager to renew the contract with Metropolitan Life Insurance Company for group life insurance for a 12-month period effective January 1st, 2018 to December 31st, 2018, to include a clause which permits the city to renew the contract at its option for 6 additional years, and for other purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to renew the contract with Metropolitan Life Insurance Company for group dental insurance for a 12-month period effective January 1st, 2018 to December 31st, 2018, to include a clause which permits the city to renew the contract at its option for 6 additional years, and for other purposes. That concludes the consent agenda.
There's a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda. Before I ask for a vote, any discussion? Director Adcock.
Yes. Mr. Moore, are these all of the programs that we have that are being renewed?
Yes, ma'am.
All our programs are being renewed?
Now, let me ask Ms. Doucette to come forward. So you want to know were there programs that we were funding this year that won't be funded in?
If all the programs that we have, because we had said that could extend the time, so evidently this is the extension of time, but I'm asking if all programs that we had have been extended.
Thank you, Board, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Bruce. There are actually just 2 programs that are ending their contract. One is Bridge to Success, their bilingual 12 to 17 program, and the other one is Tanglewood 6 to 11, which was in the Northwest. Both of them really had a lot of challenges with attendance. It's very low, but we are working with them because they would be eligible to reapply if they're able to get their numbers up and work between now and when the RFQs are released at the beginning of the new year.
Okay. Since we're trying to help them increase and everything, can you tell us where those are located, and if anyone is interested in having their children in contact tell us briefly what the programs are, and if anyone's interested in having their children in those programs, how to contact you?
Yes, ma'am. So Bridge to Success, the citywide bilingual 12 to 17, that's in the southwest area. And the challenge that we have is just 12 to 17, especially when you're talking about a bilingual program, which is Spanish and English is spoken there. It's just been very difficult because a lot of the students we found actually get jobs or go to work with their parents. So that has been a challenge in that area. So it's actually possible, there's just been discussion that we may change that to a 6 to 11 program where there is a very high need in the southwest area for a bilingual program. But that's just a conversation. That is a citywide program, meaning that any student in the city is able to go to that location, but the location is located in Southwest.
Can you give the address of the location, please?
The location of, well, it would change for the new, whoever applies for it, the location would change. It would just need to be in the Southwest area.
Okay, so they're not having theirs renewed, but if anyone wants to apply for that contract.
Right. They just need to be located somewhere in the Southwest area, the Southwest Ward. And then with Tanglewood, Tanglewood was in Northwest. And that's a 6 to 11 program. Again, there is another need. It's a positive prevention program. Both of them are positive prevention programs. But again, the challenge is, I think, again, just getting the word out in the Northwest area. We do know that there's a need out there, but it's also just making sure. This was the first time that we'd had a program in that area. They had many challenges with that, but that is another program that will be bid for, that there will be a bid, an RFQ out for that someone could qualify for.
And then all the other programs are being renewed.
All of the other programs, yes, are being renewed.
Okay.
Ms. Doucette, and when you say they're being renewed, there are different time periods for review. Is that correct? Is that why we have three
Yes.
different resolutions?
There are different time periods for each different levels. Some are 3 months, some are 6 months, and some are for a year. Yes.
Okay. Director Wright, you're recognized, please.
Ms. Doucette, where is the one in Tanglewood?
Let me get the address. I left it. I'm sorry.
Okay. You said Northwest. Or where was it, I should say?
So the address for Tanglewood is 7217 Ohio Street. So you're talking about on the other side of Mississippi, right?
Oh, okay, that's why I'm not familiar with that.
Right, it's
Okay.
the Northwest, it's kind of that area.
Yeah, it's just a world. I know how you all draw the map. It's kind of confusing if you're just talking about it. Are these your service providers here for the program directors or some kids or something?
Definitely, we have a lot in the room. If I can ask them to
Recognize them?
stand.
Since they're here.
And we have some of our youth here too, if you want to.
Okay. All right. Okay. Is that?
Very good. Director Campiris, you're next.
Could you go over the 3-month renewals and why is that way?
So the 3-month renewals, let me start with the enhancements. What we found is that there are a lot of different enhancements that are being used, that aren't being used, that we also needed to make the language just a little bit stronger, as well as open it up. Right now, the enhancements only have to go to the positive prevention programs and the GET programs. We wanted to open it up so that they could also serve our summer academic enrichment programs as well. And so what it allows us to do is it extends their contract, but it allows us to bolster and open up even wider their service area with the new RFQ that will be coming out at the beginning of the year. Then there's one program on 3 months. It's a youth intervention program, and it was the Whetstones Boys and Girls Club. And it's in the southwest area, and they also are being extended for 3 months.
Well, let me, and this may take a minute, and I'm sorry, and I'm sorry that it's a 3-month extension. And let me just tell you the story of that facility, and I think hopefully we will start looking at where we put our money, where other people are putting their money. that facility, 15 years ago, Bud Westone was supposed to be here, and I'm not sure why he's not, but 15 or 20 years ago, I was seeing John Robert Starr in the hospital, and I was on the Boys Club board, and we had determined that the place that needed the most help in Little Rock was Southwest Little Rock. And we thought we needed to start a new club there, and we were pretty strapped for cash to take care of the three we had. And I said to John Robert, I said, do you know any place out there? And he said, yeah, I do. He said, we've got a facility out there that I'm the president of the board, and Joan was on the board, right? And he said, if you want to do something with it, we'll give it to you. So Haskell Dickinson and I went out there and broke in that afternoon. Serious. And we looked at the facility and fixed the ballparks to build the new facility. And we continue funding that facility, and Bud has put an enormous amount of his personal money into it. And it serves this community, and we give, as we look at these grants, no credence to organizations that spend effort and time to support youth in this community. We give no credence, no allowance, and nothing else. So when you gave them a 3-month okay on that, I got a call from Bud, who is out there all the time, and he was personally offended. I'm personally offended too, because I've raised over 2 campaigns $6 or $8 million to fix up Boys Club boards and to keep an endowment. We put in $250,000 of private money into those clubs every year to help youth. And we don't give any credence or try to build up organizations where we've got huge contributions from the community. And I think it's wrong what we do. I think it's wrong that we don't go out and say, you know, we need partnerships. We don't need people coming up and saying we just need a little money to do something here or there. And Bud was going to come, and probably what I said is, he's here, a lot nicer than what he would have said. I don't think that we do the right thing by philanthropic groups that spend lots of time and effort raising lots of money to take care of kids in the city. And we treat everybody not equally, or we do treat everybody equally, and we shouldn't. We should look at organizations that are working actively to put money in. And if Cindy and her group made a technical error, you got to look at, to me, the whole big picture, not just that one thing. And that's an admonishment to you and your organization. And I know that Lance has done a great job of doing this, but it just, something about having spent so much of my life raising money to help these organizations, and then to make it sound like we're not doing a good job, hurts that board fundraising, and it's going to hurt us, Bud and I's ability to go out and raise more money for you. And so you need to think about that when you're doing these sort of things.
Oh, well, we have several people have their lights on. Director Richardson, you're next, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Dana, a couple of quick questions. One, this is not something you unilaterally decide. Is that correct? Do you have a planning group or a review group to kind of make these kind of recommendations? Is that correct?
We do. We have the Children, Youth, and Families Commission.
And I agree with you, Dean. I think that we don't treat them all fair, and I think sometimes how we treat them is dependent upon who they have up here advocating for them a lot of times in a lot of cases. And Dean, I agree with you. And Bud, I remember some 20-plus years ago when we opened that Buzz Club, Southwest was a hot area, so was West. we had 3 gang intervention prevention programs out there. We had 1 at Weststone, we had 2 at Step Up Center, and we had a targeted effort to address the needs out there. And I also remember at that point in time, Bruce, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we had a $200,000 expanded funding program that we didn't have. It wasn't competitive. We didn't have a competition. We didn't put an RFQ or RFP out, and I think we gave that to Whetstone without any RFP. We're not any RFQ, if I remember that correctly. And it was $200,000 in addition to what we were giving them at that point in time. Am I correct?
I think somewhat, but I think it was to the entire group, and then they split it up. But also, and I think it is important to note that as a part of the youth master plan, you all were very adamant that we had to have an evaluation tool in place. We have a process in place, and I think it is very important to not say that we're decreasing the funding to the Boys Club, to Whetstone. They're going to get their money in January, and our staff's going to work with them over the next 90 days to make sure that they're in compliance. It's our job and you all's job to get these resources out in the community where they're needed.
And they're all based on research and evaluation, correct? And I do believe that $200,000 went strictly to
It might have, but
but to your point, I think that you're right. It is in our best interest to try to make sure this funding gets out. And a lot of times, Dean, the contract period doesn't necessarily equate to the contract amount. It just may be for a shorter period of time. And to the point that Director Adcock was raising, with respect to us putting out RFQs, RFPs, we do a good job of trying to let folks know that funding is available out there, do we not?
Yes.
We do all kinds of advertising. So once the agency gets the funding, it's their job to do recruitment, right?
Yes.
We can't go make kids go to programs if the agency who get the funding don't go out and recruit the kids. So that's part of the evaluation. When they don't do that, then they don't get recommended for additional funding. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have. Thanks.
Director Adcock, you're recognized, please.
Dana, do you know what percentage of young people, 12 to 17 females, are attending Whetstone?
I don't know the number, but I know that their number was, let me not guess. Just a second.
What percentage of attendance?
It was 94%.
94%. In 2014, what was their percentage?
In 2014, I'm not quite sure. I don't have that.
In 2014, it was right at 90%. Their numbers in that particular program, if I'm not mistaken, have run in the 90s the whole time. And I know that's one thing that has been questioned, is how do they get so much participation when you just got through telling us you have another program similar to this that you're having to stop because of participation. But I think that Cindy and her group have done great in keeping their percentages up, but also knowing that area and everything. This is the best thing those young ladies have going for them, is that program, the 12 to 17-year-old young ladies in Southwest Little Rock. This is one of, in my opinion, one of the most at-risk group of young people that we have, the 12 to 17 females. So why are their numbers being questioned when they have maintained in the 90s for all these years?
I think I want to interrupt if I can, and I want to try to put this in a different spotlight. First, remember, I don't care who gets funded. That's not my issue. We can't just give money, regardless of our desires, to groups, and Director Richardson, I really don't think we just did. And the reason I don't think we did that is because I remember when we first got the monies for PIT, and I made it quite clear that we have an incredibly restrictive constitution. And we had to go through a process. We went through an RFP process for many years, and there were many problems with technical development and people not getting their bids in correctly or getting them in on time or getting in the materials that they were supposed to get in. And Bruce, to his credit, was very influential in saying, you know, we need to focus upon kids and not widgets. That's not how he said it. That's how I say it. And we don't need to put down, you got 25 widgets here in the right column. We need to put down, this is how we're going to impact children. And that says price is not what's important to us, quality is. And so we made a change in our ordinance to go to a request for qualifications. And we have a very detailed process. Now, to put this in a different light, it's only been 2 years since we found out that the same constitutional provision that allowed us to fund anybody was thrown into great challenge because of our agreement with the Chamber of Commerce. And it's only been recently we got that worked out. But that is always over us, that we have to do the process and we have to follow it. And if the process is followed and we have a board member that works with the CIYA Commission, we've got the board who set up the master plan, if that's followed and they come down with something, then I have no problem with saying, gee, why didn't we do this, or how can we do this? But I've got a real problem with anybody taking that as a slap in the face, because all we need is another lawsuit that says we can't do any of this and be out of the business for 2 or 3 years. And I think that I guess the point I'm trying to make here is, if there's a weakness in our process that maybe we're not considering the right things, I think that's a very legitimate point to raise, and we need to look at that. But I don't think anybody can take it as a slap in the face, regardless of what work they've done, if we have followed our process. Because the frank matter is, we live under a constitution that was influenced by railroads and Reconstruction and the Yankees taking over after the Civil War. And our Constitution is a bridge to the 19th century, no matter how many times we want to say we had a president who was a bridge to the 21st century. And if we ever stop following that model, we're not going to be able to do anything. And so I know how many phone calls I get from Dana and my staff get from Dana to make sure that we're not doing something improper. And that's what I'm really reacting to. It's not whether we should do something else, whether other people should be involved. I don't know anything about the statistics of who's done what or how they've done it. What I know is that the process has been carefully worked out and has been followed, and sometimes it doesn't turn out the way we wish.
Well, I'm glad for this 3 months. I'm not finished, Mayor. I'm glad for this 3 months because I know that this is a hard age to work with. And I'm glad your coach is out there because I think your coach being out there is going to learn from Whitstone and from Cindy and from these young ladies why they are attending, what they're getting out of it, why month after month they come back. And I think that then you can take what you're going to learn from this and move it to other programs. And I think that Cindy and her staff and these young ladies can make us all very proud of what they do and how they attend.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Moore, obviously, there's a reason on why these are staggered, and this particular one is 3 months. Would you explain what the determination was that led to it being a 3-month extension?
Sure. Mayor and Board, and Dana can hit more of the details, but as I said, a part of the Youth Master Plan, we really worked on the whole evaluation piece, and we still have work to do on that. But so each organization signs a contract with the city and commits to certain standards. We go back and monitor those, and then the staff actually makes the CYF has a committee now formed, and we present to that committee our findings and work with them on the next steps as far as developing a corrective action plan and other standards that we want them to meet. So we felt like so we don't in this case the commission and the staff felt like a 3-month extension to give our staff an opportunity to go out there, say, and sometimes as I've learned in the past, a lot of it's communication or lack of. So that's really what went into the recommendation.
Thank you. Director Hines, you're recognized, please.
Thanks. Director Campiris and Mr. Whetstone, having sat through a very lengthy Children, Youth, and Families Commission meeting on all of this 2 weeks ago, I can shed a little light as to what's going on. We initially had there's a group of programs that are only being renewed for 6 months. then we discussed the Whetstone project, and the full weight of what went on. Cindy came down, talked to us. We had over an hour-long discussion with her, with the Children, Youth, and Families Commission, and we looked at the weight of, and we did take into account the previous performance of all of the Boys and Girls Clubs programs, and this being the only one that had a record-keeping, and we'll call it an anomaly. Cindy came before us, and we talked about what she thought had happened. They had an employee out, and we just thought a 3-month period to get this corrected would be the shortest time to get it done. And I fully expect in 90 days, we're back up here to renew the contract for the rest of the year. That is the whole goal behind doing this. And part of it is the new youth master plan is that we wanted to treat, initially I had suggested a 6-month renewal, but I think, like Director Adcock said, I think that the 3 months is a shorter time period to get the corrections made and come back and get on a clean slate. But that's what the Children, Youth, and Families Commission, taking all of the facts into account, Cindy being there explaining what happened, I think we're all have a much better understanding of it, and that's how this recommendation comes to you guys. It comes from the Children, Youth, and Families Commission. So I think it's not a knock on anybody, but that was one of the things that we, in the Youth Master Plan, to make sure we're accountability. Attendance is one of the, all of the other things that our youth programming does. A lot of it is hard to quantify and qualify. You know, do you know, it's not always a simple formula of 1 + 1 = 2, but attendance is one of the things that we can track. And so that's one of the things that I think will get straightened out going forward. But it was like, just like I said, just a recommendation from Children, Youth, and Families, and I told our Children, Youth, and Families we can make this recommendation, and it's totally up to us as a board of directors to ratify it, change it, or do what we feel is right. And after conversation with Director Adcock and some of the fellow board members, I think they're okay with the 3 months. It's a shorter time period to get things corrected and get on to the rest of the contract year.
Director Hendricks, you're recognized, please.
Thank you. Dana, did you know all this conversation was about to go on before tonight?
I had a good idea.
I think it's an insult. I really do. And Lance said that he talked to some of the board members, he never talked to Irma Hendricks. Okay? And that's my comment.
Director Wright, you're recognized, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Dana, I'm satisfied with the way this is done. As my colleagues will recall, you know, the Youth Master Plan I brought back from the National League of Cities, and we knew it was going to be a little bit of a bumpy ride and to get this thing implemented. But I think, as Director Hines has said, we have a process in place now that there's a clear blueprint as to what we're trying to do. And as I understand it, the 3 months gives the contract wasn't canceled. So the 3 months gives that organization an opportunity to come into compliance, which I think is appropriate. Now, since that being said, will you introduce some of your program directors who are here? What programs are represented here tonight, so that we will know, and I will know how to recommend to my constituents when they have youth that they want to be involved in some of these, since I can put a name with a face now.
Is it appropriate for them to come up and introduce themselves in their program?
No, I just want you to name the programs.
Some of them, all of them are, because all of the directors aren't here.
Oh, they are?
All of them aren't here, so and some of their coordinators are here and not the directors.
Oh, okay.
I do know that Whetstone is here, so Whetstone and their program.
Okay, so this is the Whetstone people.
Yes,
Okay.
The Whetstone and the girls right here.
Okay.
And so we have that. And I'm trying to see. Right. St. John, that's what I
St.
say.
John,
St.
okay,
John is here
okay.
and Larry Clark is here with Life Skills for Youth, and Pam Bax is here with Brandon House.
Yeah.
And I know Our House is here. And
Our House, where's that? Okay.
That's right. First T is here, and we also have.
Where's First T?
Right here.
Okay.
Junior Achievement is here.
Okay.
We also have Cindy representing the Boys and Girls Club.
Who is Cindy? Your name keep coming up. I want to
Right,
see your
Cindy
face.
Doremus, yes.
Okay.
She's
I know
over-
the last name.
Right, she's with all the Boys and Girls Club. Did I miss anyone? Oh, I'm sorry, and ABC Adolescents, they're one of our newer programs.
Okay. She had her hand up. Who was that?
Oh, I didn't, yeah, I did
Oh,
see.
y'all are.
Yeah,
okay, I
Pulaski
know
County
you-
Youth Services, Jamie Scott is here
Okay.
with our program, so, and I would like to thank them for being here because they're representing the support. It has been I won't say a tough process for all of us, but they're here in support, to my knowledge anyway, for the work that we've done with this, and I think it's important that you know that's why they are here.
Well, Dana, I appreciate the work that you're doing, and I think when you stepped to this podium and took this job, after Bruce introduced you, you knew how challenging this would be, and it's not always going to be smooth, but I have the utmost confidence in your abilities to get it done, and just know that as long as you follow the process, make sure that you're in compliance with what Mr. Carpenter tells you, we can get back past whatever else. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Webb, you're recognized, please.
Mayor, I won't take long, but just to build a little bit on what Director Hines said, we were at that meeting for almost 3 hours. And I want to say that everybody on the commission had done a lot of work before the meeting and was really engaged in the conversation, and I think supported Dana and her staff. And I've been critical of some of the programs in the past because I work with some of these same programs in my other job. And what I had been critical of in the past was that I thought we should have been a little harder on some of the programs, and I think you all were trying to follow the process, and you had to follow it fairly, and I think that's what you did, and it was a good, honest discussion, and I'm glad we're renewing all these programs, and I think it will just continue to make us more effective, and it's important that we're good stewards of the taxpayers' dollar, and I think your thoroughness in the work that you did makes us better stewards, and people on that commission took it very seriously. So thank you.
Director Richardson, you're recognized, please.
Yes, Mayor. I want to echo Vice Mayor's point. And Director Hines, we're not trying to usurp your authority. We appreciate all the work you've done with the COIF. You've done a great job. Dana, I think part of why we had this process in place is to take the politics out of the funding. And we had an independent system in place that judges, evaluates, monitors, assesses effectiveness or ineffectiveness, so programs can be funded based on the merits of the programs rather than personal preferences. And contrary to some people believe, unlike you, Tom, I don't care who gets the funding, as long as we're doing the work for the young people. That's the only thing I'm concerned about. I will say this, Tom, this was unlike the Chamber of Commerce. I think we had an amount of money funded, set aside for a particular area with the expectation that one organization was going to get that. Another organization undercut that, and I think it was Step Up, Senator Jones, that undercut the Boys and Girls Clubs, and I think we put another $200,000 out that year because the Boys and Girls Club proposal was second. So I don't think we put out $200,000 just for them alone. We had $200,000 for Southwest Little Rock with the expectations that Whetstone was going to get it. Step Up undercut, they underbidded Boys and Girls Club out there, and then what we did is put another $200,000 out because they were in second place. So I think we were legal in terms of what we did. But Dana, we can quantify programming beyond just daily attendance. Units of service can count as well, and we'd also say that percentage of daily attendance can vary, and it can be less effective. We have a program serving 40 kids versus a program serving 10 kids, and 9 kids show up a day. So average daily attendance is just one of many factors we use to judge effectiveness, correct?
Correct.
So, I mean, it's a little bit wider than what is being couched tonight and the way it's being portrayed tonight. It is a system we have in place that's based on some research, based on some data, and based on some history. Over 20 years, as Dean mentioned, over 20 years of funding, over 20 years of programming that took us from, Mayor, a record homicide of 76 in 1994 to where we are right now, which we're not happy about what we have now. But back then, there were more and more young people doing the violence in our community, Dean. So I think we made some progress. I agree with Vice Mayor Webb and the mayor that we have a system in place that it guarantees that we have some independence. We take the politics out of it, we take us out of it, and let you guys have a system in place to judge and merit and gauge the program so they move forward. So I want to thank you for what you guys are doing.
Director Hendricks, you're recognized, please.
Dana, would you please notify me in 2018 when some of these people are meeting with you Because I want to know. I want to be there, okay, for you.
All right, Dana, I think the hot seat's gone. You can take the one in the back. There are no other questions.
Mr. Soto, can I add one more comment, please? I just
Director
want,
Richardson, did you have something else?
Not on this. I mean, Tom, if you're talking about this, I mean, that's fine. I had a question on something else.
it's very short. I think the board needs to commend itself and Bruce and Dana, because when we started this program, we would be in a posture where somebody was out at this point and couldn't be in for at least another year. And the program has evolved where we can recognize the kinds of things you were talking about, Dr. Compuris, and work with groups that have had a history so that they can be eligible throughout the year. And that is a sign of growth that comes from the master plan and everything else.
Okay, let's see if we can get through a consent agenda. There's been a motion and a second already. Is there any more discussion on the consent agenda?
Another
Director
issue
Richardson, you're recognized.
On the resolution number 1, I think. Bruce, where are these funds, where are these programs located? Where are the funds coming from? And where are they located?
There are federal funds. I'll let Mr. Turner or Kevin, who's going to.
It's not community block grant money, is it?
No,
So where do they come from?
Well, it's
federal.
It's from
Federal funds?
Federal funding. It comes from the U.S. Department of HUD. It's a HOPA funds, Housing Opportunity Person with AIDS.
It's HUD money that comes
Right.
specifically for this purpose.
Yes, but it's not CDBG. That's
Right.
what you were saying. It's a different source of funding, but it's federal funding.
Thank
And,
you.
and these two organizations were the two that applied for it, right?
Yes, Arkansas AIDS Foundation and Northeast Arkansas Regional AIDS Network.
And the only two, was it RFQs or RFPs?
They were RFQs.
RFQs, thank you.
Okay. All right, there's been a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The consent agenda has been adopted. We can now move on to the grouped items as amended. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read first reading on the grouped items.
An ordinance to condemn certain structures in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas as structural fire and health hazards, to provide for summary abatement procedures, to direct city staff to take such action as is necessary to raise and remove said structures, to declare an emergency, and for other purposes. An ordinance to authorize the city manager to enter into a sole source agreement with Axon Enterprises Incorporated in the amount of $110,957.91, including taxes, for the purchase of 43 less than lethal electronic control devices and for other purposes, funding from the 2012 3/8 capital improvement sales tax. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to authorize the city manager to extend the contract with the Arkansas Municipal League Municipal Vehicle Program at a total cost of $440,000, to administer a self-insurance program for the city of Little Rock's motor vehicle liability insurance, to declare an emergency and for other purposes. First reading.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place these ordinances on second reading. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Second reading, please.
An ordinance to condemn certain structures in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas as structural fire and health hazards, to provide for summary abatement procedures, to direct city staff to take such action as is necessary to raise and remove said structures, to declare an emergency. An ordinance to authorize the city manager to enter into a sole source agreement with Axon Enterprise Incorporated in the amount of $110,957.91, including taxes, for the purchase of 43 less than lethal electronic control devices. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to authorize the city manager to extend the contract with Arkansas Municipal League Municipal Vehicle Program at a total cost of $440,000, to administer a self-insurance program for the city of Little Rock's motor vehicle liability insurance, to declare an emergency. Second reading.
We suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place these ordinances on third and final reading. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Third and final reading, please.
An ordinance to condemn certain structures in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas as structural fire and health hazards, to provide for summary abatement procedures, direct city staff to take such action as necessary to raise and remove said structures, to declare an emergency, an ordinance to authorize the city manager to enter into a sole source agreement with Axon Enterprise Incorporated in the amount of $110,957.91, including taxes, for the purchase of 43 less than lethal electronic control devices, an ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to authorize the city manager to extend the contract with the Arkansas Municipal League Municipal Vehicle Program at a total cost of $440,000, to administer a self-insurance program for the City of Little Rock's motor vehicle liability insurance, to declare an emergency, third and final reading.
Okay, we've had the three readings. Is there anyone here to speak on ordinance 7 dealing with the condemnation of structures? I want to make sure that we don't have anybody in the audience that, I have no cards, so no one's stepping up to the plate on this. Okay. We've had the three readings. All in favor of the passage of the ordinances indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The ordinances have passed. And on the emergency clause for ordinance number 7, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The emergency clause is also passed. And on ordinance number M3, all in favor of the emergency clause indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The emergency clause is also passed. Before we get to the budget, I've had a request that we take item 10 next, and if there's no objection, then we'll go ahead and do that. Hearing no objection, let me go ahead and open up the public hearing and ask if there's anyone, and ask for the first reading of the ordinance, please.
An ordinance to establish and lay off Little Rock Municipal Property Owners Improvement District Number 2017-325 LaMarche Place Villas Subdivision Infrastructure Project and for the purposes, first reading.
Who suspend the rules and place on second reading?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place this ordinance on second reading. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Turn
Second.
your lights need to be
Second
fixed.
reading, please.
An ordinance to establish and lay off Little Rock Municipal Property Owners Improvement District Number 2017-325 LaMarche Place Villa Subdivision Infrastructure Project, second reading.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place this ordinance on third and final reading. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. We've had three readings. Director Hendricks, you wish to speak? Go ahead, please.
Where is this located?
It's in Ward 5.
Okay. It doesn't say. Thank you.
Okay, well, you've had the three readings.
I've only read it twice.
You've had the vote.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place it on third and final reading. Go ahead and read the third reading, please.
An ordinance to establish and lay off Little Rock Municipal Property Owners Improvement District Number 2017-325 LaMarche Place Villas Subdivision Infrastructure Project, third and final reading.
Very good. Is there anybody who wishes to speak for or against this ordinance? Anybody who wishes to speak for or against it?
Mayor, council, for the district, it's present if necessary. This is a single owner district and all the statutory requirements have been met.
Very good. Let me go ahead and close the public hearing. All in favor of the passage of the ordinance indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The ordinance is passed. We can now move on to the item 9, which is the ordinance for the passage of the 2018 budget for the city of Little Rock. Madam Clerk, if you would, first reading, please.
You've already read it 3 times.
We've read it 3 times.
Oh, that's right. We have read it all 3 times. So let me ask if there's any discussion on the budget. Sorry, go ahead and hit that again, Director Hendricks. You're recognized, please.
Thank you.
Rachel's card.
Bruce, I'm not a finance person. I can't even understand this.
So,
And as you all recall, I asked Bruce to give me some information. I get too many comments from employees, and I know they don't talk to you all, apparently they don't, about their income that they're receiving, the fact that there's a fast turnover in the department, and I think that it's a witness to that Mr. Moore sent out a notice that pickups won't be happening, and in my neighborhood, I've been seeing things on the curve for days. And I'm not here to satisfy nobody, but the people that I serve. Okay? So this is not telling me anything.
Director Hendricks, your request was to determine how much the employees in mainly the street department and solid waste department make hourly.
Is that on here?
It is. So, but obviously you know that seniority and when you came in the organization, so you're going to, so, and as the board will remember earlier this year, we negotiated a step and grade process for members of ASME. And so this is the chart that we agreed to. I went Thursday night into their union meeting and spoke to the group. And as I put out today, they signed the contract yesterday, this morning.
This isn't telling me what these men are making per hour.
Well, but they don't all make the same. So,
I know they don't, but give me a breakdown of something.
well,
But you don't have to. Go on.
well, and you can look at this first grade of 301. Now, again, depending on where you are as far as tenure, let's say you've been here 10 years and you go into step 10. So that employee, and it's right at the top of the row, would be making $13.24. Now,
I can't remember that. I wanted you to give me that in writing. Go ahead. I'm finished, Bruce. Thank you. I don't want you to waste my
Well,
time.
I think it is in writing, and it's just a matter of,
I'm not.
I don't.
Okay, well then.
I mean,
That's what
I'm
talking about,
familiar
this
with it.
right
I mean,
here.
there's a step and grade that each one of those members of ASME receive. And Mr. Moore, maybe you should identify that along with what the budget recommends in terms of an increase, in terms of what the average percentage increase is for those employees.
Yeah.
sure. So again, earlier this year, when we put in the step and grade, on average, most employees in ASME got about a 2.1% increase compared to everybody else that got a 1.5.
How many dollars is that?
How many-
That's what I'm talking about.
I mean, it depends on your current salary. It depends on which step you went into.
Could
And
you have done a couple of examples in writing?
that's what I was just thinking. That's what I'm going to provide you, some examples of somebody that just started, somebody that's been mid-career, and somebody that's toward the end of their career.
Because, Bruce, you know, I represent the people in my ward.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm running next year or every year I've been up here. I never bothered about being reelected. So that's my point. But you get a lot of this stuff, people clowning to be reelected. That's not me. Thank you, Bruce. I love you.
Love you too.
Director Richardson, you're recognized.
Yeah, I'm about to get in trouble. She's going to get on me for saying I don't speak for her. But I think, Bruce, what Director Hendricks is trying to get at is, are we paying living wages for these employees?
There's a living wage that organizations have come up with, and recently, while we're being a part of the Southern Economic Development piece component, they have a living wage that they determine. And so really, the last time we looked at it, and obviously this has increased, I feel very comfortable saying that we're paying above the living wage.
Above the living wage?
Right.
And that's based on what again?
Well, the first thing, even before we did step and grade, when this came up 5 years ago, we were above it at that point. We continue to look at it, but I think my point is the organizations have received raises since that point. In 2017, they received a 2.1% increase on average. This would be a 1% increase effective January 1st. And then on their anniversary, which is, again, what we negotiated, they would get an additional 1.8%.
Now, is that additional 1.8%, is that merit-based? Because in some years, do we not have merit-based raises as well?
We do, but when we're giving 1% raises to non-uniform, we just say that's across the board. Now, employees still get evaluated and on their goals for 2017, what they accomplished, and also talk about 2018. It's just not a merit base. It's hard to do that with 1%.
With the 1%. All right, thank you.
All right, we have one card that wishes to speak against the budget or an item on the budget. Mr. Russ Raycop. Mr. Raycop, if you'd come forward, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to sound like a broken record. I've sent a lot of requests to the city and the police department about policies and procedures for the bonus for the new recruits. And the answer that I keep getting back is that there's no policy. It's a no strings attached $5,000 bonus if they graduate from the academy. Of course, there's one for housing, but I don't think that's been used yet. And we've already had an example this year where we've had a $10,000 mistake where two recruits left. One, I think, after 3 months, and the other one within 6 months. And I think it's just bad management of the public's money to not have some sort of a stipulation with that payment. And that's what I would ask you to do is before you approve that part of the budget, that you enact some stipulation for that. And while I have, I think, a few minutes of time left, I think the raises that you have for these workers, including those in the sanitation department, I think a 1% raise doesn't do much and doesn't say much for the service that they give us. And I know a lot of citizens like myself look in the neighborhood and don't see things picked up when we see, the excuses that the city gives. But, the fact of the matter is I think they've had 10 people leave the sanitation department to go to work for a company that offered a better competitive wage than their living wage that they were receiving. And I think that these employees do a great job, and they deserve more than a 1% raise, certainly to keep that department staffed with competent people instead of having to constantly hire new people. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Raycop. Mr. Moore, with the stepping grade and the 1%, what is the basic average that our ASME folks are getting?
2.8%.
2.8. And are all of the people are virtually all the people in those departments within the stepping grade area?
Between park, are you in public works?
Yeah.
Correct. Majority of them, but you also have parks and zoo and fleet.
Okay.
But they all are part of the step and grade program.
All right. Do you wish to respond at all on the incentive pay for police recruits?
After we had 2 leave, I did ask Chief to talk to his command staff recruiters. I will say the housing incentive has been used multiple times, multiple instances. We're down to less than 20 vacancies, so something's working. The 2 that left, I know one of them, first of all, one of them didn't even know they were getting the bonus. So that was that surprise, that class that we surprised with that. But, and I believe he graduated top of his class and wanted to go to law school and got in. And I don't know the circumstances around the second one, but, we've hired, close to 100 people.
81 to be exact.
81, and I do believe if it becomes a issue, we can reevaluate it. But going through 24 weeks of training and then going through your FTO, I mean, sometimes we can't predict what's going to happen from a family situation or so forth. But for me right now, I think it's working and paying, dividends.
All right, thank you. Director Wright, you're recognized, please.
Mr. Moore, in reference to turnover in the sanitation department, what's going on with that, if that is the case, and is that anything outside the norm?
I'm trying to find the memo that I sent regarding that. It's a hard job. It's a tough job. I mean, I don't think we have any more turnover than average that people in that area. But we also have some very long-term employees. The one that oversees it, he's been there 40 years. Others have decades of experience. And one of the things that we do look at when we're talking about salary is also benefits. And as you all know, the city pays 100% of employee health care cost. And to me, that's an attraction. We pay 55% of your family coverage. So we continue to look at, especially when we're having high turnover in certain areas, but we're also able to bring on people fairly quickly to fill those positions.
Well, I'll be sure and let my constituents know that we do have some vacancies in that department. So they're looking for a job. But thank you very much.
Director Hendricks, you're recognized, please.
I'm still talking to Mr. Moore. He mentioned about the health. How many of us use our health insurance? As a minority, we don't do that quite well, even though we may have the fund on a job. I think you know what.
Well, one of the things, we even had a discussion about this yesterday going into 2018 about how we can do more around the wellness issue. As you know, part of the agreement with employees now is they got to take a physical between now and June the 1st. So we're sort of pushing them to their doctor.
So that's new.
Excuse me?
That's new.
We tried it before, but this we are implementing again. And if they don't have a physical, they're going to pay a certain amount of money each month toward their health care.
And Mr. Moore, the reason why I'm sitting here talking about it, because I think everybody knows that the majority of those workers are minorities, black men. And it bothers me that you got people working for the city making big money and doing nothing. And these men work hard. Nobody up here might want to say what I'm saying, but that's how I see it. And there is a big turnover of that department. And I resent the fact that Victor has to pick up the load sometimes in his department for what's going on out here in the city. You all can sit up here and be as green as a $1 bill, but I know what's going on and I'm going to express it. And if you don't like it, so be it. Thank you.
Director Richardson, you're recognized next, please.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Bruce, two quick things. One, with the police incentives, you said once it becomes a problem, we'll reevaluate it. Is there a threshold we determine? Is it a dollar amount or a number of officers who taking it and run off? Do we have some kind of threshold that we're determining it's a policy and we want to reevaluate that?
I haven't come up with an exact number. I mean, if all of a sudden we've lost two, and then, in each class we start losing 2 or 3. But again, that turnover, because I looked at it, is fairly low once you graduate from the academy. Now, I've seen instances, and I remember this, the number one recruit in that particular class, because we recognize them, they get a big trophy and things. We graduated on Friday. Saturday morning, they're on midnight, and he said he came in Monday and said, "I'm done. I wouldn't, I'm not made out to be a police officer." So there's some anomalies out there, and that happens. But again, we're filling our ranks. As I mentioned, we're under 20 vacancies with a class starting in February.
So there are no requirements once they get the 5,000 to actually become officers. They just, once they complete the school.
No. They get it at graduation.
At graduation?
Right.
Okay.
If they don't graduate, they don't get any incentive.
Got you. Just to dovetail, Director Hendricks, I'm joining you on one of those points. I think, Bruce, you and I had a conversation about 9 years ago, a late night phone call where we talked about, I think, Director Hendricks maybe making reference to the same person you and I talked about, somebody who worked in public works, who worked for the city, I think 21 years, and retired making, I think, $18,000. And I think that troubled her enough to call me, and troubled me enough to call you. We had a long conversation. So I think that's the genesis of what Director Hendricks is talking about. I'm not trying to speak for you again, so don't get on me. But I think that's the genesis of what she's trying to talk about and bring up.
And the other thing I didn't mention besides health care is our retirement. As you all would remember in 2012, because that was one of the things that really was bothering me. You had that very employee that when he or she left, because of our retirement plan, would not have be able to live on it. So we went out and we shaped a new plan, and so that's also benefit to our employees at 9% that the city's putting into their retirement.
Vice Mayor Webb, you're recognized, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up a second on what Director Richardson said. Bruce, thank you for doing such a good job and working with the police and getting all these folks hired. I have had a few requests from constituents and a few comments about this policy of people who work at places, who have the same thing, and if you quit after a certain time, you got to pay a certain amount of it back. And I don't think you can always compare business and government, but I think in this instance, I hope we will look at doing something like that, whether it's through part of the ride-along or whatever. I think it would be a good thing for us to do. Hope you'll do that.
Director Wright, you're recognized.
I was just going to thank Mr. Moore for the clarification, because the way it was being expressed, I was wondering, okay, are they getting this money up front or what? But they're not. They're getting it at graduation. Okay. Well, I would not be opposed to some type of repayment plan if they don't complete at least 6 months to a year. But the bottom line is it's working, and that's the main thing. I have gotten, my complaints from my constituents have gone down dramatically. And I'm glad to be able to tell them that we are just about there as far as filling our vacant positions. So thank you for that.
And understand that we lose anywhere from 36 to 45 officers a year, okay? So this is a constant process. There's over 40 that I understand have qualified for the class in February. We've hired 81 this year.
That's a lot.
And so everyone's working very, very hard to make up that shortage, and the word needs to get out to the public. We need the public to know that this board has responded, and that the staff has responded, and that we're doing everything we can to make sure that those shortages are made up, and that we're doing everything we can to make sure that we keep the city safe. And that's certainly an element of it. It's not the only thing we're doing by far. There's many, many other elements that are helping to make the streets safer, and we've seen a noticeable downturn in those issues overall. But it's something we have to remain ever vigilant about. So I hope we'll all let people know as we talk to people around in our churches and in our meetings and things like that, that we've done a lot to try and fill those vacancies. Okay, that concludes the cards and discussion on the budget. Is there all in favor of the passage of ordinance number 9, the budget for 2018, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The budget is passed unanimously. We have, yes, the emergency clause on it. All in favor of the passage of the emergency clause, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The emergency clause is also passed. The next item is citizen communication, and I have a card from Mr. Russ Rakop. Okay, thank you, Mr. Rakop. He's declined. Thank you, Mr. Rakop. You'll note that we're not going to meet on the 26th, but we will be meeting on January 2nd at 6 p.m. And I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, Cappy, as well as certainly all of our community. And I hope you all have a chance to relax and spend some time with your family and your friends and your four-footed friends as well. If there's no other business, is there a motion to adjourn? Second? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. Or an adjournment.